This episode of the Churros y Tácticas Podcast Transfer Deadline Edition is brought to you by Manscaped, who are the leaders in men's below-the-waist grooming, and they gave us and all of our listeners 20% off and free shipping over on manscaped.com with the code CHURROS, CHURROS, code CHURROS over on manscaped.com. Shout out to Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who went to Barcelona and then realized he forgot his Manscaped in London, so now he's out. I think reports latest from Fabrizio Romano is Aubameyang went to London because he forgot his Manscaped tools. Diego, this is transfer deadline day. I know you've had a crazy busy day at Barca Studios. I'm sure you Manscaped this morning before you headed out.
Kiyan, you know I had to Manscape on transfer deadline day, because if I don't, the day just becomes increasingly more ugly. You got to be nice and smooth for these kind of days. Otherwise, things don't go smoothly. And on transfer deadline day, that could bring ugly, ugly results. So you're absolutely damn sure that I Manscaped. And like you said, shout out to Aubameyang for flying back to London to pick up his kit, because what's he going to do? You can't leave that stuff at home. Got to bring it over.
Listeners get 20% off and free shipping over on manscaped.com with the code CHURROS. Your balls will thank you, and enjoy today's transfer deadline edition of the Churros y Tácticas podcast. Hello and welcome to a deadline day edition of the Churros y Tácticas podcast. This is your host Kiyan Sobhani, and I'm really excited about today's episode. I'm slurring my words. It is currently 6 p.m. CET, which means if anything happens after this, so sorry, it's not our fault. You can send all your complaints to @Diego Lorijn on Twitter. Or you can just wait for our analysis on Friday or something, or just check our Twitters for any further analysis. But as of right now, we just have a lot of kind of just fluff to talk about and nothing official. So joining me on his drive home from Barca Studios with palm trees in the background, as I can see in his through his sunroof. How you doing, Diego?
What's up, man? It's transfer deadline day. It's a manic day for all sports journalists, and Barca Studios is no different. I'm just leaving the studios after like a almost 10-hour day where we're trying to record Culés magazine, and in the end basically had to do 4 different versions of the show, in case the different scenarios play out or don't play out. And that's what we're here to discuss, and I'm excited for it, man.
Well, a lot of the movement came from some of the other Spanish teams, which we can kind of hit as we go through this podcast. We don't have that much time. I think we have about half hour max. So why don't we start with the most fascinating subject to me, and that is last week I floated the idea of Aubameyang to you, as well as Adama Traore.
Yes.
And neither of those were really a thing until they became a thing. You guys brought in Adama Traore. We already discussed that last podcast. We're not going to do that today. We discussed that over on patreon.com/Churros y Tácticas. And then Aubameyang appeared in Barcelona for what they're now labeling as a holiday, which I call BS, because nobody just randomly goes on a quote-unquote family holiday by themselves for a couple hours and then flies back to London and says, well, that was a great city. I'm so glad I snuck into the airport for that. Apparently talks broke down between Barcelona and Arsenal because, as David Ornstein reported, issues over the salary. Wow.
Yeah.
Which I think to be honest, I think is a W for you guys. I don't see how he fits. I mean, much like I don't even really see how Adama fits. I mean, I do to an extent, but he's not a Barca type player. And you guys have Abde there, you have Dest already. So how that works, I don't know. But I kind of can you talk us through that? Like, are you relieved that this seems to have been broken down right now?
Well, with there's still being 6 hours left in the transfer market, and we've seen crazy things happen on these transfer deadlines day. You'll have to excuse me, and hopefully our listeners will understand that I'm not going to go full out on expressing my personal views on the now non-signing of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, the Gabonese. What do you call people in English from?
I think Gabonese is accurate. Yeah.
Right. So the Gabonese striker it looked like it was going to be a done deal. It looked like all the basically terms had been agreed upon. I mean, the newspapers were even reporting just how generous, I guess, Aubameyang was himself and willing to take a massive pay cut. And again, based on the reports that I read earlier today, sort of almost come for free or play for free. I don't know. What do you want to make of those reports? But clearly that wasn't the case. Clearly there was some sort of dispute between the two sides, which now led Aubameyang to take a flight back to London to continue, for the moment at least, to be an Arsenal player. I have to say I was quite surprised by the, call it, optimism or, joy is too big of a word, but there were definitely some people in the newsroom that were quite excited for this transfer to actually happen and, hailing it as a better signing or potential signing than Morata could or would have been. And we had, our little back and forth with regards to that topic with my fellow colleagues. Look, I think, Kiyan, Aubameyang and his track record a lot better than mine. Mine is based on, the odd match that I would have seen here and there, plus with the reports that I've really been reading about the player more than anything, more than his on-pitch performances and productivity or lack thereof. But, I do kind of feel that we dodged a bullet on this one. I think with Luuk de Jong now coming into his own, having scored the what has it been now, 3 or 4 goals since the turn of the year in 2022, the chances that he's creating as well, his fit within the system, all this with still, of course, in mind the fact that we have Memphis. I was going to say Ansu Fati, but he'll be out for, of course, an extended period. But Memphis, rather, who, despite not being a pure number 9, I think can still be very valuable and productive for this team. All those things, as well as the cohesion that Xavi's trying to create within this dressing room. And again, without knowing Aubameyang personally, so I'm not going to judge him on I guess, but I read from him from the papers. However, having said that, I also have to say that first impressions last, right? And my first or initial impression of Aubameyang over these past couple seasons has not been that great. So again, without knowing exactly what happens in his private life, I do have, I do that he wouldn't have been the best fit for Barca in this winter transfer market. I don't know how he would have fit in the dressing room. I don't know what production he would have delivered for the first team as well as a number 9 in Xavi's system. So I'm more keen on your assessment on this non-signing at this point in time, and based on or judging from what how you were trying to jinx it and talk this into fruition, I take it that your assessment of the player is not very positive, to say the least. So if you could expand and I guess educate me on this one, I would appreciate that.
Well, I wholeheartedly agree. I think you guys did dodge a bullet. To me, this was very much a Bartomeu type signing. And, to be clear, I don't think Aubameyang, or Adama for that matter, I don't think would have been at the top of the choice for Barca. I think it's probably not if you kind of create a player profile in FIFA as the prototypical Barcelona winger that they need, it wouldn't have been either of those two. But I think they wanted some kind of insurance either way to sign somebody rather than nobody. And I put out on Twitter, I was like, what the heck are Barca even doing with Aubameyang? What's the plan? What's the vision? I think a lot of the responses were they're desperate to make sure that they qualify for Europe, and Aubameyang helps them with that. And my rebuttal to that would be maybe he'll help in some capacity, but I don't think you guys know what version of Aubameyang exists. I don't know if you guys have actually seen him for the last 2 years. He's a shell of himself. He's not the same player he used to be. He's way past his peak. The fact that Arsenal are literally trying to get rid of him for free when he's under contract should tell you something. And they're short on strikers, by the way. They don't they were trying to bring in Jovic. They're at Lacazette right now, and someone else whose name is slipping my mind. I apologize. They're thin at that position, and I would say and the biggest reason I would say Barca didn't need him is because of what you mentioned as the primary reason, and that is you guys have Memphis. I don't care what kind of form Memphis is in. It's not anywhere close to the form Aubameyang is in, the funk that he's been in. And Memphis had an amazing start to the season. We can't forget that doesn't just get lost over the last couple of months. He's still a great player. I think the only thing I can maybe look at Aubameyang in terms of what he might be better at is just some of the stuff that in pressing, he's a better presser than Memphis, historically speaking. He's a slightly better goal scorer. But again, Memphis right now is just better at almost everything apart from maybe those two things. And yeah, I actually would probably take Morata. I probably would take Morata over Aubameyang too. I honestly would as well in terms of slightly younger and can give you some moments in big games, can give you some other things other than goal scoring as well. Different players, obviously. Morata is going to be more of a central player. Aubameyang can play on the left wing as well. But again, you have Memphis for that exact reason. So I don't really see the fit. So I do think you guys dodged a bullet if it's true that it broke down.
Two questions, Kiyan, based on what you just said. Is he because you said he's a more prolific goal scorer or used to be than Memphis. I would like to see the stats on that because my boy Memphis is not a bad goal scorer, as well as, of course, we have to take into account the assists that he provides as well, are quite frankly, are a lot. So two questions. Is he a better finisher than Memphis? And two, is he even an improvement, not Memphis, but is he an improvement over Luuk de Jong? And I say that with all sincerity.
Well, the numbers say it. Again, we're talking about historical numbers here because you can't really if you're gonna compare Aubameyang to anyone this season, Aubameyang is just the worst than everyone basically. But we're talking about historical numbers. Yeah, Aubameyang is at 0.61 goals per 90 minutes, and Memphis's career is at 0.52. But Memphis does have the higher goals and assist ratio, which is 0.79 per 90 minutes, and Aubameyang's at 0.77. So I think maybe from a collective perspective, plus again, all the other stuff like youth and what he is now, I think Memphis is just definitely a better player. What was your other? Luuk de Jong. I mean, I guess you kind of know. I mean, you know how I feel about Luuk de Jong. I think he does a lot of good things off the ball, but he needs to just finish more. I don't know how much this streak. He had the 3 games before the Clásico, and then he had the Clásico itself. You need more from him outside of that as well. It can't just be a 4 or 5 game hot streak. That's the thing with him, right? But yeah, so here we are. Well, what about the other one, Dembouz? Can you say anything about that? Has that broken down? What's going on there?
With Dembele?
Yeah.
Well, the way it stands is that there's a complete standstill at the moment. Obviously the club have made their intentions heard and understood. It's either accept the deal that we're giving to you or find another club. Now, it seems that in these final hours, there's perhaps the chance of a Hail Mary in the form of PSG. Again, and this is not inside information whatsoever, but purely based on reports that Barca are asking for 20 million from PSG. My God, if we could get 20 millies, these 5-6 hours before the end of the transfer deadline for Dembele, we have to consider that a resounding success.
Yeah.
Because I'm doubtful that PSG is willing to shell out that kind of money for a player that's a liability. Let's be honest. So I think any club right now would be happy to accept Dembele coming for free, meaning not from a transfer, by a transfer rather, but running out his contract and getting whatever signing bonus. I would imagine that, although we have to see there as well, of course, because the signing bonus that reportedly is being asked by his agent is, let's say, a hefty one. So, I think both entities are in a difficult situation. You have Barca that want to get rid of a player that has shown that he is not committed to the cause and therefore doesn't want to be, or the club doesn't want him to form part in a locker room that, of course, got a very important objective, that is to qualify for the Champions League spot. And on the other hand, you have Dembele, who surely would want to continue playing. There's a World Cup coming up. He doesn't want his stock, obviously, to fall any further. This is a player that still wants a very big contract, that has a very eager and very driven agent as well to make sure that he collects his in this deal. And in order for these things to happen, Dembele has to prove himself. I mean, we talked about it on previous occasions. This is a player that, quite frankly, hasn't proven his worth over these, call it 4.5 years that he's been at the club. He has played, 40-something% of the matches, being injured, his disciplinary problems, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what is happening currently certainly is not painting a better light of the player neither. So what do you call that? You're in a rock and a hard ship. Again, I'm butchering.
Rock and a hard place.
A rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
Where it's really a game of sit and wait at the moment. I think what is going to happen is a whole bunch of nothing, where in the end we'll see a Dembele that wasn't able to reach an agreement with any other team. We'll see a Barca that also was not able to find a suitor for the French forward. And it'll come down to Xavi really to see if he's going to basically walk back on his previous statement where he said he wouldn't make use of a player. Although also there, he's kind of toyed with the idea that, first of all, he would never leave a player completely to the side. But of course, then he did say that there were only two options, and that was either sign the contract or leave. So, we'll have to see. I don't think that Barca can afford not to use a player if the likes of Dembele, if he ends up staying at the end of this transfer deadline day.
Well, if PSG backs out, which it seems like that's the case now, I don't know who else would take him on at this point. So it seems like he might just.
There's Chelsea with Tuchel, being there, his ex-coach from Dortmund. But I guess we will find out in like 6-7 hours, or however many hours are left. We'll find out soon. I did want to squeak in a few more other teams here before you got to go. Wow, it just got really dark. Sunset's fast, huh? Like it's just, yes, I looked over at the screen and you're driving and it's like pretty much nighttime now. So some Real Madrid things, and again, yes, we're not at the deadline yet, but we always kind of knew Real Madrid were going to have a quiet deadline. There were a lot of reports about Tchouameni, which we've already talked about to death. Today's reports were about Frank Kessie of AC Milan, and Lucas Navarrete, his source with the club, confirmed that we were looking at him as a plan B if we don't sign Tchouameni. My personal thoughts are not a fan. I've watched a lot of Kessie because I've been watching a lot of Brahim Diaz with Milan, and I don't love him. I don't love his style of play. I don't think he's nearly as good as Tchouameni as like a defensive specialist midfielder. Plus, he's not nearly as good a passer as Tchouameni, and he makes mistakes. I'm not a fan. So what I would say to that is I hope that that's not true, because and part of the reason why he would be a plan B is because Tchouameni would be too expensive. And if we're doing it for money reasons, I'd rather just develop Antonio Blanco, one of the guys we have at Castilla. So I'm not huge on this signing. The other one was, just that Bild reported that Kylian Mbappe was signed and done deal, and I don't really know what to make of that, because I'm not sure if that's really news. It's just kind of something we already kind of knew, right? I mean, we'll know, I think, more
of things officially, obviously, by the summer and possibly after the Real Madrid PSG games conclude.
So how do you think that the Sheikh will be approaching this upcoming match in the Champions League, knowing, or listening or reading all the reports that we read as well about, the 50 million salary agreement, et cetera, the flirting? I mean, is this the beginning of a new war breaking out between Real Madrid and PSG? Are we going to have the same enemy as well? Is this going to unite our two clubs even more?
Well, what would you say is the relationship between PSG and Barca?
It's non-existing. It's bad. It's
well, enough that you can still have conversations with them about them booze to an extent. I mean, these guys are businessmen in the end. They put things aside, but like, I guess
they're also pretty petty,
for sure. But like, what is it going to look like when Khalifi sitting with Florentino in the box during the two games? That'll be funny. I'm sure the camera will be panning on them nonstop. We should talk about other teams too. I mean, just quickly.
There's some interesting moves, man. There's some interesting moves. The one that really had me, and probably a lot of Barca fans, either smirking or in disbelief, in my case smirking, was of course Ilaix Moriba, our boy, taking a pay cut to go to Valencia. So the reason why he didn't want to sign an extension with Barca was because he wasn't getting enough moolah, and now he takes a pay cut to go to Valencia. Isn't it ironic?
It's going to make you nice and warm and fuzzy inside, huh? You must love that.
It's crazy.
Well, Daniel Was also signed for Atletico.
And I think
this
it's a good signing for...
Yeah, not deadline day necessarily because he was already signed, but, just the fact that they got a right back. I don't think he's going to give them production like Trippier did, but, I think it probably was slim pickings and he came for cheap, and it's not a huge risk for them to bring him in. We got, this one's not confirmed, but Giovanni Lo Celso to Villarreal potentially. This looks like it's been reported by several reputable places. That'd be an interesting signing. I don't know how he fits with Parejo and Capoue already there, but he is nice depth and nice insurance. He's a really good two-way box-to-box player. So it's an interesting one if that materializes. I think it's probably not an urgent signing for them, but definitely a good one.
If you get last season Betis Lo Celso, it's a very nice signing. So I guess that's the big question: is what version are you going to get from him? And the same, of course, with Bryan Gil. I would imagine that Bryan Gil linked with Valencia, another potentially key signing for them. He'll become also on loan until the end of the season. I don't know how the boy's been holding up over in Tottenham, but by the looks of it, he's eager to have more protagonism and more continuity and playing minutes. And again, a move to Valencia, I think, it's exciting for all of us that were excited and quite thrilled to see this young player dubbed, Baby Cruyff, because of his physical appearance being very similar to that of a young Johan.
Yeah.
But, return to La Liga and join, let's call them still an ambitious club under Valencia that have to do good, of course, with their fans. And a lot of pressure will be have mounted over the years of Peter Lim to finally get this team clicking again and competing for, Champions League or Europa, call it European spots, right? So I'm excited for that return, the potential, let's say, return to La Liga with Bryan Gil.
We'll see how Bryan Gil and Ilaix fit at Valencia. Bryan Gil is someone we all want his career to be revived. It didn't work out at Tottenham. So it'll be really interesting. I mean, they have some really, really good stuff happening on the wings there, right? I mean, with Gil and Guedes and Soler and Musa, they have a lot of talent. those are the ones that kind of, I guess, caught my eye in terms, like, we have a lot of movement within like the lower tiers of the league. Nothing that really would, I think.
What I mean, are you said that Madridistas were not expecting any movements from the club. Is that disappointing to you guys? Is there an area where you said, well, we clearly should have strengthened the number 9 position, or our defensive line, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where also just like Real Madrid does not do much business in the wintertime. There are outlier winters in our history that, things have happened, obviously, but generally speaking, we're pretty quiet during the winter window, or we'll do minor deals, 1 or 2 kind of smaller deals we'll do. In terms of like upgrades, I mean, it was going to be hard to find a backup striker for Benzema if you don't believe in Jovic, because one, like, who's that going to be? I think it's really hard to find a player who would be happy to be Benzema's backup, first of all, and 2, also just who is that player going to be? I mean, I know Jovic has struggled, but I think the club still kind of believes in him to some extent. They could have sent him to Arsenal on loan. They decided not to, by all reports, because they just were a little bit wary of not having anyone to back up Benzema. I don't know how much faith remains with Mariano, so it's going to be hard. I mean, the one that we all want strengthened is the right back position, the backup right back position. But again, who are you going to sign right now in this winter that would help you do that? And they're already getting Lucas Vazquez minutes there, so they're probably just going to wait until the summertime. So it's hard. Winter windows are tough, I think, for us, because it's hard to really find, especially the last few years. Like the positions we need filled are hard to fill in the winter, I think. So I don't think we're surprised. There are positions that need to be filled, but I don't think we're surprised.
Any chance of seeing Castilla players be used in the front line in the number 9 position?
I would say no. Not necessarily because we don't have talent in Castilla, but because Carlo Ancelotti does not trust young players. Like right now we have basically Miguel, who's a really talented left back. He doesn't get the light of day. Antonio Blanco doesn't get minutes. I mean, that's probably more understandable because of the amount of players we have in midfield. We have really good attacking players in Castilla, whether it's Latasa or Gudjonsson, or even like pacey wingers who are amazing, like Peter and Arribas, who can also play false 9, and they're not really going to get much playing time because Ancelotti doesn't trust youngsters much. So I would say no to that. I think they'd probably go with Jovic or like Asensio false 9, Rodrigo false 9, etc. Things like that will happen. But
you talked about Vaz replacing Trippier, right?
We did.
Because I was still referring to Ilaix's signing for Valencia, deeming that as a good one.
Right.
But I think it was getting mixed up with Vaz. So that is a done and dusted. But other than Vaz, not a whole lot of movement for Cholo's team neither. That, quite frankly, that is a bit of a surprise as well, seeing how close they are to be leapfrogged, let's say, by Barca for that 4th Champions League spot for the moment, at least.
We can't forget to take this question before we wrap it up. It's a question from our patron Tapio Musa, who wants to know our thoughts on the Giannis Antetokounmpo thing, where after a loss he's eating chicken wings and laughing and saying we play like shit. Taps references a tweet from Ewan McTeer, who quote tweeted that and says that wouldn't happen in European football, or if it did, basically, the ghost of Pedro would appear and the media would grill him. So Taps says, not really a question, but just a random thought, piggybacking off of Ewan's tweet. Will Spanish media or football media in general ever be ready for this type of honesty from players? It always reminds me of the moments wherever media and fans lose their minds when a player is, for example, doing this or doing something as simple as chatting, smiling, and hugging his buddies after the final whistle of the loss, as if humans are supposed to be robotic 100% of the time. Diego, can you think of examples like this in football?
there are lines that can't be crossed. Look, examples like this. Do you remember, top of my head here, do you remember that time when Barça played? I remember the match. It was in the Coliseo against Getafe. It was Halloween. It was many years ago. I want to say when Pep was still here. Otherwise, it must have been Lucho or Tito, may rest in peace, or Tata. I know I'm saying a whole bunch of coaches now, but it was a while ago. And after the match, the Barça players, or a selection of the Barça players, ran out in the press room, kind of all masked up and had their Halloween costumes on, frightening the journalists as a joke, right? And it was Gerard Piqué, it was Jordi Alba, I think Neymar was there as well, if I'm not mistaken. Needless to say, that quote-unquote joke didn't go over very well to the Spanish press for the reason, that whatever may be, right? Whether it was a lack of professional need to blame. I think I laughed when I saw Giannis with his bucket of chicken saying that they played like shit. It was, for me, impossible to imagine this happening in La Liga for sure.
Yeah.
However, I also welcome and congratulate that kind of naturalidad, right? That kind of naturalism, if you will. That kind of this lack of formality, I think, is also sometimes refreshing, right? It's kind of like, okay, we played like shit, and we're gonna do better next game. And the blame is on me, on the team. They played better than us. They shot the ball better. And we're going to come out in a couple of days or a day time and do better. And we will, because we're the NBA champions and I'm the league MVP. And I know we can do better, and I demand better from the team. And that's it. Like, also I think obviously it was probably different. The fact that it was telematic, right? There were no journalists present, which kind of dims or takes away from, let's say, the formality of these kind of post-match press conferences. Giannis felt like he was just on a regular old Zoom call, probably. Look, I don't know, man. I don't mind it. I don't think that Giannis meant any disrespect. I certainly wasn't offended as a viewer. I thought it was amusing. It's, I don't know, but that's the NBA, right? We see players come out with their kids, sometimes on their laps, and yeah, I don't have an issue with that particularly.
As someone who hates formalities, I agree with that aspect of it. And also, like, if you think about what he said, he actually didn't say anything wrong. He said we played like shit. He was honest. It's better than beating around the bush. I think it was what rubbed people the wrong way was probably his body language and the fact that he looked like he was laughing about it. I guess the other comparison I can think of from football perspective is when we lost against Chelsea in the Champions League and Hazard was caught on the field laughing with his former teammates and stuff.
Oh, but okay, yeah, there's plenty of incidents like that, yeah.
Well, just like I think fans really want to see players like upset after a loss. Like that's what they want to see. They want that the player suffer with them. And like,
okay. But that's like Koeman, slapping hands with and chuckling it up after PSG knocked us out of the Champions League last season.
Yeah, that happened. I can't remember.
Yeah, that happened. And then, of course, we had Longley with the Bayern guys doing similar things. And, I mean, for me, that's mixing two. Like, one thing is addressing the press in the press room and coming out with a bucket of chicken, which and his finger licking good, which, literally licking his fingers. And I guess I can sort of I can understand and see why journalists would question the sincerity of the answers that they're about to pose, right? Because it's setting up a formal interview with let's call it an unusual way, or like in a not so customary fashion, right? However, his answers were very direct and very honest, like you said, and I didn't take any issue with that. So but I think something, I mean, that, again, like I said, for me it's mixing two things, the chuckling it up with opponents after a very heavy and important defeat. Now, I think a one-off match in the NBA in a regular season is not an important defeat. So I think there I would always distinguish between playoffs or Champions League knockouts, compared to regular season.
Yeah, 100%. Like that, I think that's the key thing too. In basketball, it's a little bit different because there's games every night. The margin of error is more. People kind of sleepwalk through the season, and the playoffs they wake up. I also think if anyone is able to get away with something like this, is probably someone like Giannis, because he just won the championship, and we just know it doesn't matter if they lost this game, if they get it done in the playoffs, right? So that's a contest. Imagine if Gareth Bale did this. Oh my God, he comes out after a loss, brings out some chicken wings and a Wales flag, and starts laughing. My God, murder! I don't think he'd make it back home after that.
Or he's sitting there with two golf balls in the interview, just going.
Well, I can see that you're home, and you go and enjoy some dinner. Nothing much to really talk about this transfer window so far.
Okay, no updates, fine.
And maybe we'll put out some tweets after midnight.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, if something earth-shattering happens. Diego, thanks, my man. Appreciate it. Glad you made it home safe. We'll talk soon.
Likewise. We'll speak Friday.